Now who's got a hold of my chimichangas? Is it you?
Initiate Vigilante mode.
What's going on, guys? Okay, let me just remind you guys that I shot a spoiler conversation panel about Captain America Civil War. It's coming. It's just kind of a longer format, so I'm kind of like experimenting. So it's like newer, but it's coming. I'm here to talk to you today about a movie that I wish I could have reviewed when it came out and was released, but I wasn't doing this channel at that point. This little old movie called Deadpool was just released on Blu-ray, and I'm gonna chat with you about my thoughts on the movie because it's awesome. Deadpool is a 20th Century Fox Marvel property, so this does not coincide with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It is confusing, I know. At some point I'll do like a little bit of a video about explaining the differences between these companies. This is actually more so a part of the X-Men movie franchise. It's taken a while to kind of get made. The character is relatively new. It's actually been in existence since the late 80s, early 90s. Rob Liefeld is the creator of Deadpool. So they had a version of Deadpool in one of the X-Men films, or one of the Wolverine standalone movies, X-Men Origins Wolverine. I'm sure some of you remember that. Yeah, it was abysmal. Now look, I don't think it's the worst movie ever made, but it certainly is a very disappointing comic book film. Ryan Reynolds, who was actually given copies of the Deadpool character comic book by executives at New Line Cinema, they thought that he would be a really good Deadpool, that he would be great at playing this character. And Ryan Reynolds, not being like a comic book aficionado, really responded to that character in the books. Here we are years later. This movie is now a thing. It was a huge financial success. This is the highest grossing rated R movie and one of the highest grossing movies of the year. I think it's made about $800 million. That's Avengers numbers, considering what it is. The director, Tim Miller, now this is his first movie, from what I understand. His first like feature-length movie. I'm sure he's done commercials and TV and stuff. They had shot a bit of test footage to try to make the pitch to 20th Century Fox to actually make this movie and get it produced. It's sort of a big speculative thing of like who actually leaked that footage. It was me. Either way, the test footage was amazing, but it's kind of cool to see how they went from that to this movie. So what you will also notice is that the first action sequence in the movie is more or less the test footage, just, you know, cleaned up and looking really, really amazing. Now, I did talk about this a little bit in my Civil War discussion panel, that the use of CGI in the movie kind of bothered me, especially when we're talking about Spider-Man. It was basically like just a complete like CGI character, which is fine. It's just gonna take me a little while getting used to there not actually being a guy like in the suit all the time or as much as possible. I get it. We can't have a guy like flipping around. It's just not humanly possible to defy the laws of physics like that. But it's one thing that I really did like about the Andrew Garfield series, at least the first one, was that the director Mark Webb, who I've worked with, he really did try to get more live action elements in there, so I appreciated that. It's just, it makes it more tangible. So that's something within the Deadpool movie that I thought was interesting, that they kind of composited it. He's basically like a living cartoon anyway, so them making him CGI in certain moments or animating the face and the eyes, I thought it was a really good choice. It really worked for that character. With Spider-Man, amongst all these other live action characters like Black Panther, I mean, that suit looks so cool. Here we have Spider-Man, and he is literally a really expensive cartoon. That's just one thing that I thought this movie really nailed, was like the visuals, the aesthetic. I love how like the sky just always has this overcast look to it. It's really interesting. Obviously the inclusion of the X-Men characters that they could afford to put in this movie were great. I love their interpretation of Colossus, the straight man, Peter Rasputin, and this Negasonic Teenage Warhead iteration, which was great. I mean, the performances of those two characters were great. Colossus is like a composite of like several different people, you know, working to make that character to come to life. Let's talk about the villain. Loved, flipping on his name right now, I'm gonna insert it right here. I really liked him. This is the guy who played that new Transporter character, Ed Skrein. I really liked him in this movie. I do think that they could have beefed up some of that backstory as to like what their super soldier, Weapon X-like program is really doing. I'm sure they wanted to keep their movie nice and tight, and it didn't really bother me too much. Let's talk about the quips, the dialogue, the performances, great. TJ Miller playing Weasel, who's obviously a pretty solid comedian. You know, he was great. Him and Ryan Reynolds had great banter. The actress who played Blind Al was great. It's, I think, a really good example of like a new kind of comic book movie. It's more self-aware, it's smart, it's relevant, it's funny, and I'm hoping that we see this kind of translate more into the mainstream comic book movies. I love the romance to it. Morena Baccarin was great. I'd like to see her in more films. I really bought their chemistry, and this is sort of a romantic, it's kind of a romantic comedy of sorts, like a hard R one. I like some romance movies, and it's not my favorite genre, but this was like kind of like the way I'd love to see them. I love to see them do these kind of things. I'm gonna give this movie an A. It pretty much hit everything I wanted. That's my review of Deadpool. Keep an eye out for that Civil War discussion video. Let me also just give a shout out to Simon Ruby for helping me on this new version of the theme song. I think it sounds really great. Leave a comment, let me know what you think of it. Here is his website. You can check out some of his content. I know that he's got some shirts that he's going to start to sell, and that's something I'm going to kind of be working towards in the near future once we get a few more views on the channel, guys. Please like, share, and subscribe to Vigilante Mode Reviews.
Vigilante mode deactivate.
Talking about movies.